Hey guys, testing the mic. 1, 2, 3, testing. This is Heather with Underwater Panther. It's really good to have visual representations, stuff like this, especially when you're like brand new. Alright, so Sagittariuses are also considered the ISTPs. They're a finisher type, which means they try to finish what they started. They're an artisan or a fire sign or temperament, and they are considered the craftsman. Okay, so Sagittarius is the wanderer, the tourist, the teacher, the guide, the philosopher, the psychiatrist, the student, the benefactor, the comedian, the free spirit. And then I also have a couple funny ones. They're the Rolling Stones. They're considered steamrollers. They're the YOLO personality types. They love to tinker with things, and they can be hermit mode when they do this. They are actually introverted. Although they do have a lot of physical energy, so they have a lot of like horsepower and willpower, but they are still an introvert. All right, so those are some keywords for the Sagittarius personality type up front. All right, so their primary, they're also considered the craftsmen. They're very skilled at building. Their primary interaction style socially when they're communicating, they are direct, so they're very direct in their communication. They don't beat around the bush. They are responding, which means they're introverted, and they're in movement. Triple movement down through the ego, subconscious, unconscious, and super ego. The triple movement, so they're always on the go. And they do multitask pretty well. Like, they can talk and work at the same time, unlike myself. Okay, so the secondary temperament, they're concrete, so they are not abstract. I'm abstract, and I abstract ideas and theories, but they want more concrete reality, practicality, facts, information. That's what they're focused on. They're pragmatic, so they do not check in with the group when making decisions. They're very independent when they're making decisions, so they're pragmatic, and they're interest based. So they're very interested in, that's more of a transactional, what is someone else getting out of this situation? So they are a fire sign in that temperament. They like to test the rules, test traditions, live in the moment. They totally live in the moment. And they have a mechanical aptitude, so they're really good at tinkering with things. So the 4 sides of the mind theory, I'm just going to brush over this. So the ego is the Sagittarius or ISTP, known as a craftsman. Subconscious is the ENFJ or Cancer. The mentor, the unconscious, is the ESTJ or overseer. Yeah, Taurus. Super ego is the INFP, and I do not get into that with the 12 personality zodiac signs. There's 4 extra in the MBTI. There's 16, and then there's 12 in the Zodiac. So I'm not really sure what the 4 extra ones are astrologically. I couldn't tell you. So yeah, super ego is considered the dreamer. So the house system is the 1st through the 12th house, and each zodiac sign is aligned with a house. And so the 9th house created Sagittarius. The 9th house represents mental exploration, and the quotation is I see. So it's all about the higher mind with a spiritual twist and long distance travel. So it's the house of mental exploration and long distance travel, higher education, higher mind, education in general, internally and externally, wisdom, knowledge, reasoning, philosophy, science, occult, mysticism, astrology, teaching, going through experiences in general, ties meanings and reasonings to things, has a broad perspective on these things, travel to foreign lands, business in foreign lands, studying other languages, public expression of ideas, publishing, and literary effort. All about the higher mind. So Jupiter. All right, so now we're going to break down, psychologically, they break the ego down into 4 parts, okay? So the ego astrologically is the month you were born, the month and the day. So we're talking about Sagittarius here, astrologically. Now, psychologically, the ego of the Sagittarius is split into 4 parts, okay? And that also goes with astrology, which a lot of people do not realize. All right, so the hero, parent, child, and inferior is psychological. The ruler, exaltation, left field, and fall is astrologically. So the Sagittarius is ruled by the planet Jupiter. This is newer. I have updated my key cards, and psychologically, the hero is developed between ages 1 and 12, the parent cognitive function ages 12 through 20, the child cognitive function 20 to 35 years old, and then the inferior cognitive function starts to develop around the age of 35 and up. So psychological development is a very long-term process. It takes us humans a very long time to mature and psychologically develop. Okay, so Sagittarius, they are mutable in their temperament astrologically, so they're adaptable and changeable to other people's ways of seeing and feeling. They have extroverted feeling inferior, which is a tough place emotionally. For sure. That's why they irk me emotionally. I have extroverted feeling parent, and the emotional world of a Sagittarius is a lot more chaotic, I will say, externally than a Pisces or INFJ. So that's why I always say Sagittariuses are the external version of Pisces. They're a hot freaking mess. Sagittariuses are like openly and noticeably a hot mess. Now, Pisces, they will hide it better, but we're both hot messes. Believe me, I get it. I've updated my keynotes. And exaltation, I have South Node in Chiron, the wounded healer, astrologically. So the South Node in Chiron, the wounded healer, is an exaltation. And then left field, we have Mercury. They have a very hard time telling others what they need and want, as well as about their own emotions. So they have a very hard time communicating in that sense, and so do Pisces. We both have communication issues being introverts. We tend to close in on ourselves and highly critique our own performance and can have performance anxiety and never feel like we're good enough and doing enough. So that's a Sagittarius and Pisces thing for sure. And then in the fall for Sagittarius astrologically, I have the North Node in Ceres. All right, so we have psychologically introverted thinking hero, extroverted sensing parent, introverted intuition child, and extroverted feeling inferior. So TI and FE, the thinking and feeling are on an axis, and then the sensing and intuition are on an axis. So you're always going to find an introverted with an extroverted cognitive function. So they are introverted. They're all about sensing, thinking, and perceiving. They see it through artisans. It's hard for them to get started on a project, but once they do, they have the will and really the wits. Like they are extremely tactical and they can dodge bullets in the moment for sure. Like that is intellectually as well as physically. They have a lot of energy and they definitely know the back roads, if you know what I'm saying. So they do see things through their finisher type. They're direct with their speech. They say what they mean and mean what they say. They can be accused of being bossy and stubborn. Sagittariuses are all about what they want and what they think. And they do tend to stupid zone people for sure. They can have a superiority complex in their intellectualism. They are very, very smart. They are not an intellectual, but they are definitely one of the most... Actually, they are top 4 alpha. We have the ESTP or Aries as the number 1 alpha. The ENTJ or Gemini is a second alpha. ISTP or Sagittarius as the third alpha, and INTJ or Aquarius the fourth alpha. So, very, very masculine personality type, the men and the women, but especially the women, they are very masculine. And they certainly are workhorses. I will put it that way. They're very easily guilted, never knowing if they do enough. And so they overwork themselves. And I always had to tell my coworker, Sag, just because you can doesn't mean you should. You're a woman, chill out. Like, this woman had a higher work ethic and energy levels than I do. And I pride myself on that. So totally mind blowing. It irked me. Yeah, and my aunt is also a Sagittarius. She is the highest level of accounting. She's an accountant in Chicago, and she used to fly all over the United States, long distance travel, ninth house Sagittarius. She used to fly everywhere and help people with their books, accounting, to restructure and pretty much save businesses from financial crisis or whatever the case may be. So she, she swoops in and takes care of business. Very, very boss babes. They are the boss babes. For sure. Like Mina Irfan. She is actually here on YouTube. She is a Sagittarius. Mina Irfan, if you're very into inner work and spirituality, and if you're a businesswoman or a woman trying to get married, trying to make money, whatever the case may be, Mina Irfan is certainly, I would top recommend her. She is amazing. She's a Sagittarius, so does not surprise me whatsoever. They are dedicated to progress, so they are triple movement through their ego, sub, unconscious, and superego, very movement oriented. They can be a jack of all trades, master of none, but keep skills after they learn them, and if they can focus. So they are very impatient. They get bored very easily. Sagittarius is like my younger child. I had to, even when she was 1 year old, she had to have like 12 different stations, playstations, because she got bored so quickly. But I'm like, no, girl, like, you've got energy. We need to burn it. Let's do this. And so they get bored. It's like, it reminds me of a bodybuilder that goes into the gym and they like, they do one set and then they move on to the next equipment and they just rotate this huge circuit. That's definitely Sagittarius energy. They're very freedom based. They will not be told what to do. Where to begin? We have begun. So they can be very arrogant. They have introverted thinking hero, and they have Jupiter as the ruler. What is it? It is the first gateway of the mind in the four sides. So it's within the ego. And it doesn't normally start to develop until after id or infancy stage, when we only know what we want and our basic needs. So as we interact more in the world in beta waves, do we develop the understanding that others have needs and desires and that we cannot fully be selfish. We gather perceptions and become more capable of making decisions. It is the ego's job to meet the needs of the id while taking into account the reality of the situation. The ego isn't fully formed until adolescence. So the hero cognitive function, this is the ruling planet, like in astrology. So the hero psychologically is the strongest, most dominant, and well-developed function. It is our flow state. Okay, so what is introverted thinking? It is a subjective judgment function. It's all about organizing, evaluating conclusions, criteria, and principles. So introverted thinking represents logic and what one person thinks is true. So it's on the axis with extroverted feeling. So true, false, good, bad judgment versus perception. So TI represents logic, inner decision making, informal, holistic, qualitative, impromptu in nature, situational, eyeballing, confident in spontaneously and independently figuring things out. Clever, innovative, reductive to foundational remains, bursts own subjectivity, and discerning truth and wisdom. Both sides of the brain, so gray shades. yet lives life seriously due to feeling responsible with one's thinking and projecting that onto others. So it can be very harsh truths. That's where they are very blunt and direct in their communication and their thinking. And they can tend to get stuck in their own thinking and be totally stubborn. Sagittariuses are known to be the most stubborn personality type. You cannot get them to think any differently. You cannot make them do anything they don't want to do, like go to the doctor. It's rough. So TI is great at analyzing, categorizing, evaluating according to principles and whether something fits the framework or model, figuring out the principles, how with which something works, checking for inconsistencies, clarifying definitions to get more precision, gaining leverage using a framework, concerned with inner thinking and effectiveness personally. So it's a more individualized function. They have very little interest in directing others due to caring about fine-tuning their own thinking and frameworks. They can be very good at troubleshooting, solving complex problems, and coming up with answers independently. So, TI or introverted thinking's goal is to create a web of knowledge in which everything is related, but they do like to take things apart and be deeply caught up in problem solving. So, introverted thinking is a judging function and is concerned with inner rationality and personal effectiveness. Its methods are more individualized and therefore less broadly acceptable than those of TE or extroverted thinking. So they can tend to be like the black sheep or the odd man out, and they're not afraid to go up against a group. So introverted thinkers have very little interest in directing other people and have more interest in internally organizing and expanding their own knowledge base. TI or introverted thinking characteristics. It is what fuels your drive to understand the world, as well as your focus on mastering hands-on skills and talents. It primarily does analysis on the experiences and information that your extroverted sensing takes in, and that's in your apparent cognitive function. We'll dive more into that here in a bit. It provides a logical framework and reference material to determine which ideas are logical and which are not, and to figure out how they might be implemented. Because introverted thinking is serving extroverted sensing, it primarily seeks knowledge as a tool that can be wielded to solve problems. So it is impersonal with their approach, can be slower yet more thorough, and they're definitely not afraid of the concept of negative help or criticism. They can definitely criticize the absolute hell out of you. And they love tearing people down limb from limb to build them back up. They can tend to do this within systems, jobs, teachings, and especially with people. So they're always trying to teach you a lesson, Sagittarius, for sure. So they are one of the best types to give reality checks. They are focused on the good of the person. So they're like walking reality checkers. But this can be shallow. Sagittariuses can be pretty shallow. Just saying. All right, so the hero cognitive function can get stuck in extremes, and it can take over the ego to the point that they are practically unconscious. So just because we're really good at the hero, that's our first cognitive function that we develop as we are growing up. And just because you're really good at this function doesn't mean that you don't go into autopilot. So it's like when you're driving to work or wherever you drive to very often, you can tend to go into autopilot and you're like, oh hell, how did I even get here? You know what I mean? Like your brain, you're just going and you're not thinking. So it can get stuck in extremes and cause a lot of damage in your life. This is where pride comes from. Very, very prideful, and they're thinking, stubborn, won't listen to anybody, and that can be an issue. Sagittarius has a ton of energy here. So they do have a ton of energy in their thinking and their physical body. Absolutely wild. But emotional things drain the hell out of them. They're not here to support you emotionally. All right, so heroic inflation. So when we start relying on our dominant function, our hero, too much, They can tend to start believing that no one else is valid but themselves. They can become too analytical and critical of others. They can struggle with their relationships because of this. Yeah, they can really steamroll you and just criticize relentlessly. It is a sight to behold. So Jupiter is Sagittarius's ruling planet. It is a tool planet that expands. It's very expansive. So keywords is expansion, higher education, adding meanings and reasonings, soaking into a subject deeply, broadening perspectives, how much you're willing to gain wisdom, prosperity after the diligence, teaching, and passing judgments. So Jupiter in our charts offers us, or our personality offers us opportunities to overcome problems and barriers. Opportunity may come in knowledge, reassurance, a helping hand, or funds. The position of Jupiter tells us where we can be generous. Okay, so yeah, Jupiter expands everything it touches. They're very lucky. This is where Jupiter brings heavy Jupiter in somebody certainly brings them good luck and abundance. And I have found this in my own life. I have had certain people in certain positions or areas or know people or whatever the case may be. I've always had angels. I call them angels. It's like not really good luck. It's more like angels to me. And then Sagittarius, they are so lucky. Like my little girl, we would be walking through, wherever, the grocery store. And I swear we had 10 strangers in the first 2 years of her life, at least 10. I don't know, maybe more. Just give her stuff, buy her stuffed animals, give her money. I mean, it was just wild. She had super curly hair. It's getting a little wavy now. It's longer, but she looked like Shirley Temple. And I don't know. It was amazing. She's got really good luck and abundance. And I've noticed that. And I've noticed that in pretty much every Sagittarius I personally know. So that's where it comes from here. We've got Jupiter. So I explained the first section of the ego. Now we're going to go into the exaltation astrologically and the parent cognitive function psychologically. So the parent function is a person's sense of personal responsibility. It verifies information, proper procedures, routines, references, sources, and wants to understand processes and systems. So this is normally developed between age 12 and 20. So this function, the parent function, is more conscious and cautious and can talk about values and what we will fight for and stand up for. Our parent function does the job unlike the hero and doesn't expect a party afterwards. A mature warrior just does his or her duty. So this is where they feel dutiful. Sagittarius. It forces people to behave and stay in line in society. It's about morality and intention versus desires. So adversity develops the parent cognitive function and brings maturity and personal responsibility. So you can also have a hard time developing your parent cognitive function due to a lack of maturity or the lack of consequences. Sagittarius they live so much in the moment, they are not thinking about consequences, and they don't think that far ahead into the future. They are living in the moment, and that can be an issue. And they're very high risk. I think the extroverted sensing here and the South Node and the wounded healer Chiron. So far we've got Jupiter, the wisdom and expansion and introverted thinking. They're very much so all about making sure they're thinking properly, and they're very independent in their thinking and their research, and so they're pulling from many different sources like I do. I also have introverted thinking, but mine's in my child. And they're very, very deliberate with their thinking. And so we have that coming now into the extroverted sensing parent with the South Node and the wounded healer. And so they love to throw themselves. They love having many ideas. They're very inventive, very creative. They're the craftsmen. They like to build things and tinker, engineer. They can be like an engineer. And I will get into extroverted sensing, but I'm getting a feeling here that they just throw themselves into things. Pisces do this too. It's like, you know, something's not good for you, but you throw yourself into it anyways because you're going to gain wisdom. And so they can also be like this and not see consequences and live in the moment. But this, you know, the Chiron, the wounded healer, is a what do you call that? Half man, half horse. I'm having a brain toot right now. What do you call it? A centaur. Jesus. The Chiron is a centaur. So they're half human. They understand human nature. Sagittarius. They are very cultural. They're like Scorpios. They have a big social network. They love traveling. They love networking. Long distance people. Long distance could be foreign countries. So they're very in tune culturally with different cultures, different what people value in different cultures. So they're very in tune with the collective. Like Pisces, I'm also very in tune with the collective. And so our Sagittarius that is something else we have in common. Seeking higher knowledge and wisdom and eventually wanting to teach and preach. And yeah, so what is extroverted sensing? So it is extroverted sensing represents physics, mechanics, short-term memory. So they think they have a memory of an elephant, but they definitely forget what they say. Especially I've noticed this. Like they can be so critical. God, it's like this icy sword cutting and tearing, but then they'll forget that they said that and they live in the moment and who cares what I said yesterday? You better forgive me and forget too. It's a thing. So it's on the axis with their introverted intuition, which we're going to go get into after this. So extroverted sensing is a objective outer perception, decision-making function. It is extroverted exploration. Seeks extensive outward stimulation, new sights, sounds, taste, experiences, sensations. So we're talking about the five senses here. Extroverted sensing, extroverted, going out to experience new things through your senses, exploring. They love to consume experiences. So Sagittarius is a very fun. They love music. They love traveling. They like having a good time. They're adrenaline junkies. They're going to want to jump out of an airplane like an Aries. You know, probably hiking, very athletic. They can be. So extroverted sensing, this is where their concrete temperament aspect comes in. It's attuned to reality in a concrete way. So about facts, not emotions. They see it as fullness of life to direct attention outside of themselves and to enjoy sensations in the moment. SE, or extroverted sensing, experiencing the immediate context and noticing changes and opportunities for action. So they are all about, they're extremely opportunistic like Scorpios. Scorpios can wheel and deal, and Scorpios understand the value of things, and they can totally social engineer Sagittarius. But Sagittarius, they can also wheel and deal. They're very smart. And they're opportunistic. That's what I was saying. Sagittarius is always think the grass is greener on the other side. They can be the homewreckers. Like, they can be the Don Juans. They can initiate that in other people, too. And that can be a very big issue. It can be very sexual. Seeking sensations from everybody. They don't know what they want. They want all of it. They're very wanty and needy. And they can kind of be depraved like Scorpio as well. It's like a black trying to throw attention into a black hole. you know, good luck, because it's never going to fill up and it's not ever going to be enough. But yeah, they do a lot for other people and they just want appreciation. I understand. So, where was I? Accumulating experiences, scanning for visual reactions of relevant data, recognizing the way things have always been, stabilizing with a predictable standard, seeks extensive outward stimulation, consumes to experience, typically athletic, likes to show their capabilities, likes to be on top, FYI, can interrupt others' conversations. This can make them intend to desire and strive for their passions aggressively. They can be very aggressive physically and through communication, direct and blunt. All right, so high SE users, which is a Sagittarius, they have a high kinesthetic, there you go, intelligence, have masterful control over their physical bodies and the environment around them. So they're very, very skilled with their bodies and tools. They are incredibly attuned to their surroundings and excel at hands-on activities. As children, they were spending all their time physically exploring the world around them, are confident and adventurous, always ready for an exciting challenge or a new escapade, have a reputation for being thrill seekers. Their dominant SE seeks variety and physical stimulation. This makes them like to take risks, have a natural awareness of what their body can or can't do, paired with quick reflexes and an ability to keep their wits in a crisis. Very, very tactical. They're not so much strategic long term, and tactical in the moment. They will steamroll you. I've had 3 Sagittarius bosses. They typically are the boss, the supervisor, management. They're the boss. They're the boss. My little one's already going to be the boss. Like, they're the boss. Let's see, where was I? Many are in the athletic arena or in the performance arts. They know how to see opportunities quickly and pounce on them before others do. They can be skilled entrepreneurs and lawyers, as they can react to ever-changing arguments with skill and a memory for detail. My lawyer is actually a Sagittarius. I know many. And that's who I trust. Sagittarius, absolutely. Lawyer, perfect. Perfect. All right. They trust their impulses and believe in enjoying life to the fullest extent, are often fun-loving and optimistic. This makes them take the time to enjoy their environment and the chances they are given without feeling like they have to constantly push everything into the future context. They're very hands-on people, and they learn by doing and would rather just get right into something and work with it with their hands than read a manual or spend a lot of time in intense study. They are remarkable problem solvers and can be very intelligent, but they are often stifled in the classroom, so they're very hyperactive, and it's hard for them to sit still, like in Aries or any of the other fire signs. Leo, not so much. They like to sit and have everyone look at me. No, but Sagittarius has a really hard time sitting still. They get bored very, very, very easily, and they already know they're like smarter than everyone else, so why should I be here, you know? So the cognitive attitude of the parent function within the ego: judgments, values, critical, nurturing, corrective behaviors, controlling. Sagittarius can be so controlling. They can control every aspect of your life. They want to be number 1, priority 1. They have to be priority 1. They have to have their freedom. They are not going to be told what to do. And they're very stubborn and controlling because they do not want their freedom taken away. That is such a thing. So extroverted sensing is has a pessimistic slant here because the hero is positive. It takes less energy to use. And then the negative pessimistic functions take more energy to use. And so we tend to be more conscious of this function. We are responsible and cautious here. And we can tend to project this onto others that we admire. So parent SE within the Sagittarius is I'm responsible, the quotation, I'm responsible with what others experience. So Sagittarius is introverted. They are doing a lot of judging. Best believe they're judging you even though they're introverted and not saying anything, which normally they will say something anyways. SE is in the moment, looking at all the data in front of them. So they can tend to help. They love to actually help others, especially with systems and practicality. They love to problem solve for people. I think that's like probably one of their number one favorite things to do is to help problem solve. They hear no. Do you have a practical issue? How can I fix it? It can give them a unique sense of style for their aesthetics, house or clothing. Yes, their aesthetics. They can be emo or they can wear like bright colors. They're athletic, like they like to be comfortable. They like to look good. Yeah, it reminds me of my coworker, Sagittarius. I just loved she was like me, lip gloss, nails done, just all the things, the ooh shiny thing, they like to dress to impress. Whether that be business, casual, athletic, whatever the case may be, they just are kind of flamboyant. Even the men and women, flamboyant. They want to be noticed. Look at my body. I worked for it, Attention. Definitely want attention. Even though they won't admit it. They're starving for attention. All the attention. Even though they won't admit it. So SE can also make them feel overwhelmed with sensory overload relatively easily. And I've noticed this with my younger one. Like I study human design and I'm a projector, which means that it's really hard for me to tune out other people. I've worked on this the last 6 years very, very intentionally. So I'm actually really good at it now. But I can tend to soak in everyone's shit. And people used to be able to influence me through guilt, through it's like a people pleasing type of thing. And Sagittarius can be very people pleasing until they're not. And so that's kind of like a little journey that both personality types can go through because they're introverted. And so they tend to soak in other people's energies. And it's so draining. So draining. Sensory overload. My little one is like, I know, like I feel the same. I can be very overstimulated in a crowd and I just want to get in and get out. And they're the same way. Just get in and get out. Small settings are better. And yeah, sensory overload is definitely a problem. And they can be very irritated and agitated and annoyed and become quickly angered and overwhelmed because of the sensory environment, sounds, or whatever the case may be. Introverted sensing, this is where their mechanical aptitude comes in, their skills, their trade. Skilled trades is another one. So they can be a lawyer, the wit, intellectual, combativeness, argumentativeness, winning arguments. So lawyers or skilled trades, they're very mechanical physically as well. And they can have mastery over mechanics, engineering. They can literally fix anything. Very inventive. They like to invent new things. They teach themselves and they know the ins and outs of things. So they are able to fix things and see things unlike most. So once they learn something, they retain it. They need to know the ins and outs. Like I just said, I didn't even read that. That's hilarious. So they're very diligent, mechanically speaking, to the point of mastery. Tearing the whole thing down. My little one loved to tear things down, but she did not have the enough patience to put it back together. It was so hysterical. And I knew this because I studied this stuff before I had her. And I was like, oh my gosh, this personality type. She's going to be the death of me. How am I going to handle this? I'm smart and I get it. And I can work with it to a degree. To a degree. Golly, Sagittarius, man, they can be so sweet. So sweet. I mean, my heart melt. Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. And then in the next step, they can just ravage you. Absolutely ravage you. They're very sassy, very bossy, very direct and blunt. Can I have a hug? And then they take your little change out of your car door. Whew, quick. quick. I won't ever be fooled by that ever again. Couldn't believe it, but total Sagittarius through and through. So they like to make their own inventions. They're very inventive, and then they will risk their lives by trying it out first. So that's the thing. Any obstacle they come across, they will keep trying things over and over until they find a path that works for them. They're not at all afraid to try new things or things that have not been done before. Very genius. Absolutely genius. So Sagittarius has, I have added this in myself, and this took me years to even find. So it's like something that a lot of people don't mention, this aspect of Sagittarius or the Istp. So I'm going to add this in here and do with it what you will. So in the parent cognitive function, we have extroverted sensing. So they're very mechanical, always on the go, movement oriented, get bored quickly, always want to jump into things and do things, experience things, have fun, go to concerts, travel. And then we also astrologically in exaltation. So the exaltation is what you are exalted in, your higher form. You can really do this well in your maturity. Oh, I forgot I had this thing. Had my other stand in my way. Okay, so Chiron and the South Node are both in exaltation. Sagittarius can be very, very good at this, just like they are very good at being mechanically inclined and athletic and very good at controlling their body. Very, they're star. They're always the star of whatever they're in, whether that be work or athletics, whatever the case may be. But the wounded healer, Chiron is a centaur. And Chiron is the wounded healer or our inner teacher. And this is where their preaching and helping others can come into play. So it represents the bridge between the material and the spiritual worlds, our Chiron. So according to mythology, Chiron was a great healer, wise teacher, and one of the immortal centaurs. Unfortunately, he was deadly injured by a poisonous arrow by Hercules, his favorite disciple. He was suffering in great pain, but he could not die. Finally, he gave up his immortality for the benefit of Prometheus, who was also suffering. And Chiron was sent to the underworld. In the underworld, Zeus had mercy for him, and he raised him into heaven. So in astrology, Chiron symbolizes our unhealable injuries and incurable trauma. This is like where our childhood trauma is. However, if a person, instead of drowning in his own trauma, is able to accept the trauma and help others who are also suffering and accept that suffering as part of their lives, then Chiron may be the key to wisdom or even to some sort of initiation gate. So Chiron in our natal charts, but we're not talking natal charts now, we're talking personality types. So within the Sagittarius ego is where we have healing powers as a result of our own deep spiritual wounds. We may overcompensate in these areas of life. So Chiron, as a wounded healer, first must face issues of low self-worth and feelings of inadequacy and learn to rise above these issues. So Sagittarius deep down do have very, very, very extreme self-worth issues. I wasn't going to get into this until I got into the inferior function, but Sagittarius has extroverted feeling in the inferior function. So not only are they not in tune with their own emotions and feelings, and they're also not in tune with others either, but they're easily guilted. They're not really in tune with their emotional world. And when you're not in tune with that, you can be manipulated, easily taken advantage of. You don't tend to have high self-worth. And when you don't have high self-worth, you're going to be chasing things that, aren't really good for you. And So they can tend to run through people. They can tend to be the partiers. They can tend to get into addictive behaviors of any kind, sex, drugs, you name it. They do have serious addiction issues. They can. And self-worth issues. So it's something to be very aware of. It's like they don't even want to look into the mirror because they don't like themselves. They don't love themselves. They don't prioritize themselves. They don't take care of their health normally. And so when you can't love yourself, how can you truly love others? That is my question, and that is a question you should probably ask yourself. So, because the wound goes deep and we may work hard to overcome it, healing powers are potent. As such, Chiron in our chart or your personality is a place of great knowledge, experience, talent, and wisdom. Even if our own experience with the issues are problematic, our experience informs us, and we can be excellent guides and counselors in those areas of our life. So it shows us our wound. So there's a wound here and how we express it. So themes surrounding Chiron include how we can shoot ourselves in our own foot, figuratively speaking, damage ourselves, and where our triggers are. So healing our Chiron wounds allows us to balance our masculine and feminine energies within us, within our own being, and in turn our relationships and how we come across energetically to others. So all Sagittariuses are very masculine and alpha, but normally when you are presenting yourself as alpha, internally you are trying to hide. They're very prideful, and they try to hide the fact that they do not feel accepted, they don't feel loved, and they don't feel appreciated most of the time. And so, it's just this, it can be a very, very big issue with their emotional world and not communicating their own wants and needs. All right, so the South Node is also here, and I'm going to pull that up. The nodes of the moon. So our South and North nodes go very deep into our past lives and into our future, who we are trying to become. It's like our spiritual path, our life path. It seems to me like they can just their virtue and vice is melancholy versus joy, and they can be very joyful people, but they can also become very, very depressed, self-inflict. When they're upset, they tend to self-inflict. Unfortunately, introversion, normally demon mode, is hurting your own self, closing in, criticizing yourself, and just becoming flat out depressed. INFJs or Pisces are known to be very depressive people. They can get into depressive modes, but Sagittarius can also. And it's hard to pull them out of that sometimes. They can get pretty deep into that. All right. Excuse me. Oh, yes. And then I was going to get into the Templar. This kind of goes in with Chiron in the South Node. So they are Soul Temple Templars. Or Mind Temple. Sorry. Sag is actually in the Mind Temple. They're all about teaching and preaching. But they are Templars. The Templars are the ESTP Aries, ISTP Sagittarius, ENFJ Cancer, and INFJ Pisces. So they're all about strength of character, improving other human beings, willpower, and truth. They try to be the beacon of righteousness, trying to find the righteousness of character. Templars seek people with character or who are building character, strengthening will and being. They need freedom of choices and finding their own way. They will take their fiery sword of truth and expose lies, lacks in self-mastery, immaturity, and weakness, and try to make them better. So they break others down with truth and heal them afterwards. They can really grind others into dust and then build them back up and help them integrate their character. So they're all about getting rid of charlatans. They really do care about truth, like Pisces. They can't stand negative feedback. Criticism, man, Sagittarius can really, really lay out criticism. They can dish it, but they absolutely cannot take it. They're extremely sensitive. They'll never admit how sensitive they are. But yeah, they don't do very well with criticism. And they can tend to carry their guilt everywhere they go, ending up repeating the same mistakes, even to new people. They can tend to not see past their own nose and cannot see into themselves, be reflective as much. And they can have issues with, they can't stop lying to themselves and they don't want to face the pain and failure of things. And they can keep running away from problems or people pleasing. All right, so what do we have next? Child cognitive function. So the child cognitive function is where our innocence is. It's the inner child of our soul, the heart of the matter. It has lasting optimistic energy. And it's where our liquid luck is. Connection with divinity. Child function creates miracles. It just needs recognition and compliments, so they are as optimistic as possible. So the child function is normally used prior to the parent function, but in a more childish way rather than childlike. Then roughly starts maturing around ages 20 to 35. So we tend to either double down on our child function or get stuck in hero-child loops due to these functions being optimistic. We're easier to use with less energy expenditure. So hero-child loops can cause extreme introversion or extreme extroversion, and Sagittarius also can tend to swing between extremes. And we will double down on this function until we absolutely hit rock bottom. So what is introverted intuition? It's a subjective perceiving, taking in, or retrieving information. So Sagittariuses are very perceptive. Yes and no, they do live in the moment. So because we're in the child function, they're more childish here, and they're not able to strategize too far into the future. And so NI users are introverted intuition. So intuitive users find stability in imagination. It stabilizes the abstract narrowing down. So introverted intuition represents willpower, the future for oneself, one's own fate, apprehends ideas, patterns, and perspectives that emerge after processing from within. Introverted intuition is focused inwards on the internal world of thoughts, ideas, and concepts, as opposed to an extroverted function, which is focused on the world that is external to the mind. So, introverted intuition focuses on conclusions rather than ideas. It goes from holistic ideas to reducing things down. It surveys a vast portion of the mind, and when a correlation is perceived, the user locks onto it. It is the broad scope peripheral gaze. Introverted intuition is very surface level because it sacrifices depth and intensity to breadth of scope. The conclusions they reach can be very deep and detailed. It relies on assumptions, hypotheses, and generalizations in order to fill in the gaps of perception. Can tend to make wild leaps in assumptions in order to compensate for the lack of detail. For a lazy intuitive, it is easy to make a vast sweeping blanket statement and leave context and circumstances out of the picture because they are unwilling to face the details. They don't realize they're trying to make life too predictable, but only because they won't come to terms with the details. The ignorance is bliss. And this comes into their consequential, they act before, they just jump before they look, living in the moment. It can be a low resolution perception of the internal world, yet they still gravitate towards the profound and unraveling complex issues. Introverted intuition users are still highly aware of the details being there, even if they are not choosing to zoom in on them because they're being lazy. So they're able to see the bigger picture. We've got Jupiter and wisdom here. And then we can also zoom in on the little details. So Sagittariuses can be extremely detail-oriented in their thinking, as well as the physical reality, concrete reality around them. Not feelings. Absolutely not feelings, though. So this is where they're tinkering. They can really, like, tunnel vision tinker. They can just tinker away in their, on their hobby for hours and hours by themselves, independently. They love doing that. So what does introverted intuition do? Searches for a deeper layer of meaning, looks for hidden patterns and trends, foresees implications and likely results, and this is not so much in their actions, is the foundation of strategic thinking, but they're very much so tactical because we're in the child function. Sees things from many different perspectives, reads between the lines, looks for the unseen ripple effects of current experiences and actions, looks for symbolism and significance beneath reality. Now, because this is in a child function, they're like immature and unaware that they are immature here. And they can either get stuck in a cult or create a cult. There are Sagittariuses that have absolutely... Sagittarius is a very interesting personality type because there's a lot in crime. There are absolute psychopaths. Ted Bundy was a Sagittarius. There can just really be a dark side to Sagittarius. And I didn't really want to get into that here, but there's like extremes when it comes to Sag. It's like they're either joyous, happy, amazing people, or they're like serial killers. It's a thing. Okay, so this can make them seem scattered. So this is another hot mess issue, or only see their own way. They need freedom in their thinking and ability to communicate. They enjoy tinkering with ideas, perspectives, theories, visions, stories, symbols, and metaphors, but also in the physical. Like, they just got it. They rely on visual. Well, normally, high NI users normally rely on visuals, but this isn't so much the case for Sag because they want to be hands-on. So the child cognitive function we will tend to use this in stress-free environments. We like to explore, and this is where our playful energy is, but we can tend to hide it away when stressed. So the cognitive attitude of the child: optimism, creativity, innocence, curious, boundless energy, miracles. So child, introverted intuition: I'm childish with what I want. Liquid luck, but can be naive. Curious, but gets distracted. Can be a powerful visionary, but they are prone to losing themselves in the concrete moment and seeking to escape a deeper internal reality by indulging in SE sensations, sex, drugs, rock and roll, Rolling Stone. They're developing, so NI connected to TI, introverted thinking and introverted intuition. For the Sagittarius or ISTP, they're developing skill sets and niches in a realm of expertise in order to be of maximal utility. They're all about systems and efficiency. Yeah, so they can have issues with spending money and taking responsibility or ownership for things around them. They can live in a transient, day-to-day compulsive state, so they can be very compulsive, high risk, compulsive. You just can't control yourself financially and in any of the sensing realms. Yeah, we both have Mercury in left field, Pisces and Sagittarius. So Mercury represents a tool planet, and it rules over communication, our mind, thoughts, and words. And this is literally our thinking, our mind, Mercury. It can reveal our way of thinking, writing, and speaking. Learning, publishing represents libraries and the media and marketing. So, yeah, Sagittarius can be amazing entrepreneurs. Amazing. So, Mercury also represents guide to soul, swift-footed deity of transitions, communication, exchange, trade, profit, and of travelers and merchants, as well as material transactions. So Sagittariuses can be pretty shallow because they can be pretty transactional and have covert contracts with other people. Like, I'm going to do this for you. You better do something for me, but I'm not going to tell you that. So that can be a thing. Mercury can be fickle, slick, and exciting with words. And so they can really pop off at the mouth at any given moment. And also, Mercury represents one's intellectual genius. Mercury brings us brilliant ideas, illuminating messages, and amazing connections. So, left field, Mercury, communicating. The lack of strategizing, introverted intuition, represents the strategic mind. And so Sagittariuses are lacking here, not communicating their own emotions and feelings, their wants, their self-worth, not being in tune with your own intuition. You have to take care of yourself in order to be in tune with your own intuition, your own gut feeling, your intuition. You actually have to, your body needs to be healthy in order to do so. And you're going to burn out. Sagittariuses are workaholics and they definitely burn out. And their lifelong lesson is to learn how to love themselves, to take care of themselves, and not be a doormat. That can be a real issue. So they can have a childish sense of what their wants and desires. This is where their bossy comes from, combined with they have their own thoughts and care mostly about their own thoughts, not everyone else. So they definitely can have a hard time listening. They will talk over you. They just won't listen. Mercury left, thinking, communicating, analyzing, effectively looking at details and instructions. Wants to be curious, wants to look at the metaphor of things. Not being able to effectively communicate what they want to express. It's not that they want to escape, but they don't want to be caged in or around. Yeah, so they can tend to obligate other people as well, like the Gemini. And they definitely can think they know it all. That's another TI thing. The loop of the TI hero and the NI child. So, know-it-alls. Won't listen to anybody. God complex. They think they know everything. They're not going to listen to anyone. But they're still full of wisdom and knowledge. They know what to do to take care of themselves. But are they going to do it? I don't know. It might take their freedom away. They might have to actually be disciplined for once instead of sliding in sideways, right? Oh, gosh. Okay, so I'm going to add the South Node section in here. So the South Node represents our past life or karmic tendencies, including past experiences, natural talents, and unresolved issues we carry into this lifetime. It's considered the tail of the dragon and symbolizes letting go and releasing, often representing a comfort zone or familiar patterns that may need to be shed for growth. Essentially, is a point of reflection on what you've already mastered and what you need to detach from in this current lifetime. And so the South Node and exaltation, I have noticed Sagittarius are amazing at detaching in every way. There could have been someone in their younger life that has cheated on them or burnt them or whatever the case may be, and they will carry that on through the rest of their life and burn everyone around them and detach very quickly and move on and go to the next. And this is where I get the most hung up on Sagittarius. This is a Scorpio thing too, is their level of detachment, regardless of the attention you give them, the thanks, the appreciation, making them number one priority, all these things. It has to be in quantity. And so eventually people around them get aggravated because it never adds up. They just can never get enough of those things, and they will detach from their loved ones, relationships, friendships very easily and never look back. And this is an exaltation. So it can be an issue and it can be a strength as well. And so that's just something to be aware of, is carrying past lessons, karma. It can swing back around. The South Node is thought to reveal insights into our past life experiences. It highlights our natural gifts and skills that were honed in previous lives, areas where we might feel comfortable and familiar. And so, yeah, they can be very comfortable in gathering sensations in whatever form that may be. And that's our exaltation. But then we have the North Node in fall. So extroverted parent, extroverted sensing parent, and extroverted feeling inferior are constantly communicating to each other through the South Node and the North Node. We are trying to, every individual is trying to get to our North Node. Our South Node is easy, it's comfortable, it's familiar, but it's going to hold us back from growth if we hold on to things and not grow past it. So, the gathering of sensations and the self-worth axis is a really big deal. And I will get into extroverted feeling inferior tomorrow because I'm exhausted. And I do appreciate you watching this video. I'm going to edit it, put in the visuals, and chop it down a little bit. This is my first go-around for Sagittarius, and I'm trying to do it justice. I have a lot of work to do, but that is what I'm doing. I'm working on this book, and I will release quite a few ebooks out of it. So that's my plan. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Write your thoughts, comments, questions in the comment section. Check out my other ebooks. I do have the 12 personality types and the fire sign ebooks that you can grab to get this information in a readable format. But I'm sure you're a Sag and you would prefer audio while you're working or whatever you're doing, you know, cleaning. You're always busy. I'm always busy. So I do a lot of audio. I get it. Audio and video. Reading is time consuming. And, but hey, I'm offering it. It's out there. And like and subscribe, share, and thank you so, so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. See you on the other side.